The sun was hot. The ground was dry. The wind blew little clouds of dust across the path. Amarashi sat outside their small mud house, her bare feet in the sand, waiting. Mama had gone to the farm early that morning. She took her old hoe, worn from many years of digging, and a brown basket made from palm leaves. She smiled at Amarashi before leaving and said, "I will be back before the sun goes down. Look after your brothers." Amarashi had nodded. She was 20 years old, the eldest child. She had cooked yam for breakfast. She had swept the compound. She had given water to the goats, but now the sun was sinking low, turning the sky orange and gold. The shadows grew longer, and still Mama was not back. Her heart began to beat fast. She told herself Mama was just taking long at the farm. Maybe she found more cassava to harvest. Maybe she met a neighbor on the road. But deep inside, Amarashi felt something heavy, something cold. Her brothers, Emmanuel, 8 years old, and Joshua, 7, was still playing. They sat on the sand, building little hills with stones and laughing. They did not notice the way Amarashi kept turning her head toward the road. They did not see the way her hands twisted the edge of her wrapper. When darkness came, they all sat by the door. The night was quiet except for the sound of crickets and faraway frogs. The moon rose high, but Mama never came. The next morning, Amarashi woke early. She cooked a little porridge for her brothers and told them to stay home. She walked quickly to the farm, her bare feet making soft prints in the sand. The cassava leaves waved gently in the breeze. She searched between the rows of corn, her eyes wide, her heart racing. "Mama," she called. Only the wind answered. She looked under the mango tree where Mama used to rest. She checked the footpath that led to the river. There was nothing, no sign, no sound. Days passed. The neighbors shook their heads. Some whispered that maybe Mama had lost her way in the forest. Some said maybe she had gone to another village. But no one brought news. It was as if Mama had walked into the air and disappeared. Now, it was only Amarashi and her 2 brothers. 3 young souls in a world that suddenly felt bigger, colder, and harder than before. At first, Amarashi tried to keep her brothers in school. She knew how much they loved learning. Emmanuel always came home with a smile, showing her his drawings. Joshua would read out loud, even when he made mistakes, and they would laugh together. But the school fees were too high. Every time she counted her coins, they were never enough. She could not pay for herself and for them. So, one morning, with tears in her eyes, she told her teacher, "I will not come again. I have to work." The teacher sighed and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You are a good girl, Amarashi. But life is hard. Take care of your brothers." After that day, Amarashi went from house to house in the village. "Please, help us," she begged, her voice soft and tired. She hoped someone would give her food, or work, or anything, but the neighbors turned their faces away. Some shook their heads. "We have nothing," they said without meeting her eyes. Others simply shut the doors before she could finish speaking. She went to her uncles, hoping family would help. They listened, then shook their heads too. "We cannot help," they said. One uncle even said, "We have our own children to feed." Amarashi walked home with empty hands and a heavy heart. She thought of her brothers waiting, their stomachs rumbling. The next day, she tried selling oranges in the market. She borrowed a small basket from a woman who owned many trees. She smiled at passers-by, holding out the sweet-smelling fruit, but the people in the market only frowned. "They are not ripe," one woman said. "They are too small," another complained. Sometimes, one person would buy just one orange, and Amarashi would whisper, "Thank you," as if it were gold. But most days, the rest of the oranges would rot in the basket, their skins turning soft and dark. When she returned the basket, the woman who gave her the oranges would shout, "Where is my money?" Amarashi would cry, "They did not buy. Please, I will pay later." But the woman's eyes were cold. "Don't come here again," she snapped. That night, Amarashi sat outside their little mud house, watching her brothers sleep on the mat. The moon shone on the thin faces. Her stomach was empty, but her heart was full of worry. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. When the oranges failed, Amarashi began to carry heavy loads for people in the market. She would wake up before the sun rose, tie a scarf around her head, and walk to the market barefoot. Her feet knew every stone on the road. When she got there, she would stand near the entrance, waiting for someone to call her. "Girl, come and carry this for me," they would shout. She would lift baskets filled with yams, firewood, cassava, or bunches of plantain. The baskets were so heavy that her neck would hurt, and her back would bend. Sweat would roll down her face and soak her old blouse. Her legs would shake as she walked, but she kept going. The sun burned her skin. Flies buzzed around her face. Sometimes her stomach would growl loudly, but she could not stop to rest. When she asked for her payment, some people would frown. "I lost my money," they would say. Others would drop a few coins into her hand, not even enough to buy bread. They cheated her because she was only a girl, and she had no one to speak for her. She would walk home with sore arms, aching shoulders, and an empty stomach. But when she reached the house, Emmanuel and Joshua would run to her. Their eyes would be wide, full of hope. "Did you bring something for us?" they would ask. Sometimes she would have a little food, sometimes nothing at all. But she would smile and say, "Don't worry. We will eat." Even when her own stomach was crying for food, she tried to make them feel safe. At night, when they were asleep, Amarashi lay awake. She looked up at the roof, full of holes where the moonlight peeked through. She whispered to God, "Please, my brothers are hungry. Help me." Her voice was soft, but her heart was loud. Tears would slide down her cheeks and wet her pillow. In the quiet darkness, she listened for an answer. All she heard was the sound of crickets outside and the steady breathing of her brothers. But she still believed that one day, God would hear her. One afternoon, when the air was still and quiet, a woman came to the village. Her footsteps were slow, but her clothes shone like they were made of water. Her gold earrings swung in the sunlight. It was Mama's old friend, Mrs. Grace, from Lagos. Amarashi's heart jumped. She had not seen Mrs. Grace since she was a little girl. Back then, Mrs. Grace would visit during Christmas and bring sweet bread, rice, and meat. Now, Amarashi hoped she had come to help. She ran to her. "Auntie Grace, my brothers are hungry. I have nothing left for them. Please, help me." Her voice shook. She could almost feel Emmanuel and Joshua's empty stomachs crying behind her words. Mrs. Grace smiled, but it was not the warm smile Amarashi remembered. It was thin and sharp, like a blade hidden in cloth. "I will help you, Mrs. Grace said slowly. "But first, you must bring me your breast milk." Amarashi's eyes widened. "What?" she asked, almost in a whisper. Mrs. Grace leaned closer. "Yes. I have people in Lagos who need it. I will pay you well. You can feed your brothers, but you must give it to me." Amarashi stepped back. Her chest tightened. She thought of Mama's teachings. Never sell what is meant for your children's life. Her hands trembled. "No, I can't, Mrs. Grace's smile faded like the sun hiding behind a cloud. "Then I cannot help you," she said coldly. She turned away, her gold earrings flashing one last time before she walked out of the village road, leaving Amarashi standing in the dust. Amarashi's feet felt heavy. The hope she had carried for that moment sank into her belly like a stone. She turned toward home, wondering how she would tell Emmanuel and Joshua that there was still no food. For many days, Amarashi tried again to work. She went to the market. She asked to carry loads. She knocked on doors. But every door stayed shut. Some people turned their faces away. Others pretended not to hear her. Her brothers, Emmanuel and Joshua, grew thinner. Their cheeks sank in. Their eyes looked too big for their small faces. They spoke less, only watching her quietly, as if waiting for her to save them. One cold evening, when the wind scratched her skin, Amarashi went back to Mrs. Grace's house. She stood at the door for a long time, her heart beating fast. Finally, she knocked. Mrs. Grace opened the door, her gold earrings moving in the light. Amarashi's voice was small. I will do it. Mrs. Grace's smile spread slowly. She walked inside and returned with a small bottle. Inside was a dark, thick liquid that smelled strange. "Drink this, Mrs. Grace said. It will make you give more milk. People will pay you well. Amarashi looked at the bottle. The smell made her stomach turn. But she thought of Emmanuel and Joshua, their empty bowls, the quiet eyes. She closed her eyes and drank. The taste was bitter, like burnt leaves. It scratched her throat and left a heavy feeling in her stomach. She did not know she was drinking her last days on earth. That night, her body felt strange. Her heart beat too fast, then too slow. Her hands shook when she tried to hold the cup. The next morning, her eyes felt heavy. Her legs felt like wood. She moved, but every step was harder than the one before. Each day after that, she felt less and less like herself. The laughter she once had was gone. The strength in her arms faded. Her skin became pale, and her lips stayed dry no matter how much water she drank. Still, she told no one. Not even Emmanuel. Not even Joshua. She only smiled at him, even when it hurt. But deep inside, she knew something was breaking. One morning, Amarashi tried to rise from her mat, but her body felt heavy, as if the earth itself was holding her down. Her chest ached. Her breath was slow. She called softly, "Emmanuel, Joshua." The boys came running to her side. She lifted her weak hands and touched their small faces, brushing their cheeks with trembling fingers. Her eyes were tired, but warm. "Be good boys," she whispered. Her voice was like the wind, soft, almost gone. "Remember, God will take care of you. He loves you even when I am not here. Never forget that." Tears filled the boys' eyes. They wanted to speak, but their throats were tight. Joshua curled beside her like a little bird. Emmanuel held her hand as if he could keep her from slipping away. That night, when the moon was high, Amarashi closed her eyes and did not open them again. Her face was peaceful, as if she was only sleeping. In the morning, the death of Amarashi spread through the village. The village elders came. They stood in the small room, their heads bowed. One of them sighed. "The boys cannot stay here alone," he said. "We will take them to the orphanage." The boys stood by the doorway, holding hands. They did not understand fully what was happening, but they knew one thing. This was the last time they would see the home where Amarashi had prayed, cooked, and told them bedtime stories. As they walked away, Emmanuel looked back. The house was quiet now. The mat where Amarashi had lain was empty. But in that stillness, it was as if her voice was still there, gentle, loving, whispering, "Be strong, my boys. God is with you." The wind carried that whisper into their hearts, and though they were afraid, they held on to each other, and to her words.